Corey Monteith was 31 years old and a heroin user. It's hard to swallow, I know, because this young man, a heroin user, clean-shaven, soft-spoken, flat-out adorable. Corey Monteith, here he is on the set of Glee, the series that launched him into stardom. And juxtapose that with the scene of his death, Vancouver, British Columbia. Some of his many, many fans, including lots of young girls, stopping by, mourning a life cut short by drugs. George Stroumboulopoulos is with me now from Toronto. We know him as the host of CNN's Stroumboulopoulos Tonight. Good to see you. I hate that we're talking under the situation that we are, but I have to ask about this interview. You talked to Corey. It wasn't the first time, but you talked to him in 2011. It was a time when he seemed to have turned his life around. Let me just play part of your interview.
You're so unique in this position that fame often leads to the disintegration of a person. But it seems like in your case, it's having the opposite effect.
I just try and do the next right thing, I just try and do the next right thing. That's all I can say. And it's when you have this whole fame thing, it just seems like so many opportunities. I see it as so many opportunities, and there are many opportunities to do the next wrong thing.
It is so incredibly tragic, and when you think about it, Monteith, he began drinking and began using drugs. As he talked to you, he started around age 13, which is the age of a lot of his fans today. Strombo, I mean, what can you tell me about his teen years and how this whole addiction developed?
About him, like, he was one of the loveliest ones you're going to meet, right? And I know it's tragic when you lose anybody, but he was kind of the good one. And Corey did seem to have turned things around. I don't know a lot of the details near the end of what happened to him or what precipitated, those final few hours for him. But it's just, sometimes this stuff just kind of comes out of nowhere. He seemed to be making the right choices in most parts of his life. He was very self-aware. He was aware of the step-by-step process with which he could get better. And this is the tragedy of addiction. This is the complicated part of addiction, is that everybody has their own relationship with it. And how you get through it is kind of, sometimes it's not really up to you. So it's a real tragedy. He was a really lovely man.
He seemed lovely. You could tell he seemed very self-aware. I watched the whole clip when you were sitting down and talking to him. He seemed also pretty confident when he was talking about his sobriety. And I'm just wondering, when the cameras weren't rolling or any moment in between, did you pick up anything different?
No, what I learned from him is that what made him special, actually, was that he was very brave. And not brave in the braggadocio way, brave with his vulnerability. He recognized that he had lots of issues that he had to deal with, and he was making active choices to deal with them. The way in that conversation we had, he talked about his father and dealing with that, with his upbringing, dealing with things like addiction and the idea of making the next right choice. But that's the thing, right? With addiction, you could be going down the right road for so long, and it's a bad hour, and look out. Right? A bad hour could be the difference maker in somebody's life. I actually didn't pick up a single thing that said he was in trouble. Not a single thing, because I don't think at that time, the last time I saw him, and it had been a minute since I've seen him, he was in that right place. And I think it was confidence in recognizing that he had vulnerabilities that he was working towards. So he didn't think that he had nailed life. He thought that he was working towards it. And that brings a certain confidence to a guy. I just was really impressed with how brave he was in sharing that stuff on the air. Because as you know, Brooke, celebrity for the sake of celebrity is not interesting. But in those conversations, when he was willing to engage, he was actually actively helping other people make better choices in their life. People who could watch and relate to some of his stuff. Because our culture does not really appreciate mental health issues and doesn't deal with addiction with the most empathy. We don't as a culture. And when you have strong, successful people talking about it, that's how you can help end the stigma and help people get help.
And I heard, he was helping. He was helping folks. Richard Branson was working with him, I know, on a group, helping folks on the streets, helping young people. He seemed to have such a giving way about him, and the whole thing is sad every way you cut it. George Stroumboulopoulos, thank you for hopping on television after what I think was your vacation. So thank you very much. I appreciate it, and we'll be watching for you Friday night here on CNN. Your big guest Friday, former CNNer Larry King. Strombo, thank you very much.